Two significant storms on the way with major snow, ice, wind, and potential blizzard conditions over the next week. Welcome in, everybody. Hopefully, we're having a wonderful evening out there. And boy, oh boy, what a crazy start to 2025. We had record Gulf Coast snow in January. We have potential record severe weather this weekend and even blizzard-like conditions on the table with a dynamic storm. And then we could round it all off next week with another shot of southern snow and a potential coastal rider that could turn into a big nor'easter. We're going to break it all down for you in this evening's video. Now, if you haven't already, go ahead, like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. Again, a lot to kind of keep up with here, so you're going to want to have that bell on so you're always up to date, and you'll be the first to hear when I have the latest model guidance and a breakdown of that guidance here on the channel. Also, comment, let me know where you're watching from and what you're seeing out there. Alrighty, folks, let's go ahead and dive on into things. And what you see next to me, this is the latest run of our European ensembles from this afternoon, showing that snow potential. That'll be a big topic in today's video, is breaking down who has the best shot of seeing significant snow, and this kind of a little bit of a spoiler alert ahead to that. You can see not one, but two rounds of snow crossing portions of the lower 48. Now, before we get out into the future, let's talk about what's happening right now, as that's going to set the stage for this very active time frame. Now, look out west. We've got a big-time storm system out here working into Northern California and eventually going to cross through the Rockies and then up through the east, bringing severe weather, heavy snow, strong wind, and an ice storm potential with it. If that wasn't enough, again, we're going to do kind of the same thing again later next week, but for different folks. And you can see a very powerful, potent storm system, very kind of cold cloud tops on this one showing up, indicating that this is a powerful one. And then you can also see on the East Coast, this is the remnants of yesterday's storm that brought severe weather to the deep south and brought some snow to the Midwest. That one slowly but surely moving on out of here. And again, we'll make way for a nicer day tomorrow before our next storm begins working east towards the weekend. Now, current alerts out there, plenty of them, trust me. You can see them on the map here with those green boxes indicating flood watches, and then out west, just a big old mess on the way, or really already happening for many folks. Winter storm warnings in pink, winter weather advisories in purple, flood watches even out into California, high wind warnings. We've got it all out there. And also notice here into Wisconsin, some pink or some purple rather showing up. That is kind of the beginning of the impacts from our West Coast storm into the east. Going to see an area of snow through the Midwest tomorrow afternoon. That could drop some pretty good totals for many folks, as it kind of is the precursor to the real show come Saturday and into Sunday. Let's go ahead and break it on down for you. This storm system, kind of why is it happening and who's going to get the worst of it? Well, this is our upper level kind of jet stream here, right around 500 millibars, about halfway up into the atmosphere. And I'm going to kind of pause it right here on our Friday afternoon time frame. So you can see this big dip in the jet stream. And what we're getting is a lot of strong winds right across the central part of the country, a little bit of a jet streak that will begin to amplify by overnight Friday into Saturday. And that's going to create a couple areas of lift. So notice as I move this ahead into time, you can see that jet streak really getting going. This is Saturday afternoon, and just kind of the way jet streaks work in meteorology here is we've got two areas of increased lift due to them. I've got them circled on the map here. The southern area, that'll bring severe weather. The northern area, that'll bring heavier snowfall rates as the system cranks through throughout Saturday afternoon. And then into the evening of Saturday towards Sunday, working towards the northeast. Check out those very strong upper level winds. Again, a strong system here. And by the time we get to about Sunday afternoon, the storm's going to kind of hit the overdrive gear as it's working up the coast. Really just a tremendous amount of lift above it. That's going to really deepen our surface pressure and lead to a very strong cyclone that's going to kick up the winds and kick up the precipitation rates. Again, we are going to see heavy snow and ice in the northeast by Sunday out of this storm system. With that said, let's go ahead and time it out for you and kind of give you the latest model guidance. The brand new NAM model just came out, one of our mesoscale models, so slightly higher resolution, helping us to kind of look at more of the fine details on this storm system. Here we go. Friday morning, time above my head, 7 a.m., February 14th, Valentine's Day starting off here. And not a whole lot going on during the morning of Valentine's. But as we get into the afternoon, notice what happens. An area of snow begins to blossom as a little bit of a short wave here out ahead of the main piece of energy gets going. We've got some snow in the Twin Cities, through northern Iowa, the Dakotas, back into Wisconsin. This during the evening tomorrow. So if you've got plans going out in the town, watch for some snow up that way. Everyone else looks pretty clear here, outside of a little bit of lake effect snow into New York off the Lake Ontario and into the Tug Hill. Watching for that here Friday evening. But the real show overnight Friday, here we go, waking up Saturday morning. Our center of low pressure beginning to develop back over Texas, Oklahoma, and all that upper level lift I told you about, producing plenty of snow into Wisconsin, Michigan, and remember, started Friday, still continuing during the early morning of Saturday. Looks like some pretty good snowfall rates in there as well. Heavy rain back down through the Ohio Valley, maybe a little bit of ice here into Indiana and Ohio. We'll watch the trends on that. Then comes Saturday afternoon. At this point, the severe weather threat going to increase. Also, the icing threat going to increase. That big shield of precipitation working into the northeast. Blue being snow into the Finger Lakes, back into Pennsylvania. That pink color, that's ice into the Shenandoah Valley, up through the Alleghenies. As if we haven't already seen enough ice over the past week. Gonna add more to those totals out of this storm. And then during the afternoon and evening, our warm sector down south beginning to really ramp up and become primed for strong storms during the evening of Saturday. That includes Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Arkansas. You'll kind of see what happens on the model here. Again, snow continuing in the northeast at this time as well. So kind of a double threat here. We've got the snow and ice in the northeast, the severe weather in the south. This around 4 or 5 p.m. Saturday evening. We've got snow in northern Jersey, New York City, Scranton, Philly. Going to get a quick burst of snow at the front end of this thing. And then here we go during the evening. Heavy snow working into portions of Connecticut, Rhode Island, through Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, upstate New York, changing to rain in Philadelphia, changing to ice in northern New Jersey. And check out this squall line back down into Arkansas, that warm sector getting its act together. Those kinematics, or that wind shear, overlapping that thunderstorm fuel, and we've got a severe weather threat developing. So we're really going to do it all Saturday, folks. We're going to have the snow, we're going to have ice, we're going to have severe weather, and in between all of it, flooding a threat through the Ohio Valley out of this storm system. Now, we'll go into the overnight of Saturday. Snow continues into the northeast, again changing to rain in New Jersey through Philadelphia, back up into Long Island, but much of Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, much of New York State, into the Hudson Valley northbound through Vermont and New Hampshire. A big winter storm just beginning, and that squall line continuing to work through the deep south. Keep it going here. Storm system beginning to strengthen during the overnight of Saturday into Sunday. A back end thumping of snow through Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, and then still all-out winter storm up into the northeast, becoming an ice storm. As you can see, kind of that purple and pink beginning to develop here in and around the Boston area, through northern Connecticut, northern Rhode Island, into southern New York State along the Pennsylvania state line. Still snow into the interior, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. Keep it going. Storm continues to strengthen, pushing east this Sunday morning. Big shield of snow and ice in the northeast. Still rain along the I-95. We've got snow in Ohio, Indiana, Detroit, seeing some snow here. A squall line, a nasty one, working through the Carolinas Sunday morning and afternoon. And just keeps on going, more of the same. That ice and rain line pushing northward into Vermont, New Hampshire, this by Sunday afternoon. Bringing that active weather, snow continuing into the interior up near the Canadian border. 986 millibar low. Yeah, that's a strong one. And all of this active weather just keeps going into the overnight of Sunday. The Northeast still dealing with ice and snow and rain along the coastal areas. And then we get that transfer of energy, and this is when we're most likely to see some of those blizzard-like conditions, right during this part of the storm, as it kind of pulls up the Appalachia chain, gets down near 980, 990 millibars, right up into the interior northeast, and potentially even back down and kind of the back end side of this. We'll get a deformation band to get going. That's where the strongest winds and heaviest snowfall rates will be. Again, might not hit exact blizzard criteria, but it will be blizzard-like, meaning you'll go outside, you'll have whiteout conditions for a time, and heavy snowfall rates. And then the storm begins to wind down here by the overnight of Sunday, and this is getting into early Monday, but back-end energy bringing plenty of northwest flow snow through the eastern U.S. by overnight Sunday and into the early morning hours of Monday. Oof, all right, that's a lot, right? Well, let's talk totals. Obviously, you care about that. This is the latest snowfall projection from our blend of models. This is the mean. So, this is all of the members kind of blended together. I mean, folks, this is a big storm. Check this out from Wisconsin into Michigan, averaging around, we'll say, 8 to 12 inches of snow on the model. You get up into upstate New York, up near Burlington, into Newport. We've got Lewistown here, into portions of northern Maine. In here, we could see more than a foot of snow. Would not surprise me at all. You get back down towards Boston, lower end totals as you're going to deal with more icing to mix in, but still could be a solid 3 to 6 inch event down this way. Again, probably an 8 to 12 inch event up into the northern interior. And then I guess we'll kind of say a 4 to 6 event here in between through southern Vermont, New Hampshire, northern Mass, and then back through portions of New York State, including Syracuse, back down towards Philadelphia, New York City, front end thumping of snow, likely going to change over to rain pretty quickly. So especially New York City, Bridgeport through the coastal areas of Connecticut could get a quick couple of inches. Just don't plan on it lasting too long as that changeover occurs. But again, I'll zoom out one more time here. Big storm, big snowfall totals out of this one by the time we get through the weekend, and not the only threat. Ice, another concern. This is the ice threat from that blend of models. I have it bumped up a little bit to the 75th percentile because I think this is a slightly more realistic output from it. Someone in Massachusetts, back into the Hudson Valley of New York, southern Vermont, New Hampshire, up towards Portland, we're going to get a 1/4 of an inch to a 1/2 inch of ice. I feel pretty confident about that. Back down towards the Alleghenies into kind of the Shenandoah Valley, going to see some ice out of this. Luckily, not as bad as earlier this week, but going to get a front end thumping of ice before that change over to snow, or excuse me, change over to rain rather, back in the southern tier here through the mid-Atlantic. But you get the point. Big ice storm, big snowstorm, and the other problem will be the wind that kicks up, and we'll talk about that. Before we do, though, I do want to mention this. Giving you a heads up on that severe weather potential, already have a level 3 out of 5 risk from the Storm Prediction Center. This for Saturday afternoon and overnight. The worst of it right now looks to be through Mississippi, Jackson, Meridian, back up towards Birmingham, Monroe, Shreveport. Looks to be the hot spot, but during the evening and overnight, this will spread eastbound and eventually kind of get on into portions of kind of the Atlanta, Georgia area, back up towards Nashville into East Texas. Going to see some of that threat during Sunday as well. So it's not just the orange area. And then, like I mentioned, overnight pushing east towards the Carolinas, Charlotte, Greenville, Spartanburg, Columbia, Florence. Sunday morning, that'll be your time where you could see active severe weather out of this storm system. All right, again, keep on going. Still with the weekend storm, the flooding threat very real as well. This is a moderate threat, level 4 out of 5 for flash flooding from Nashville, Louisville, Pikeville into southern West Virginia, into the Blacksburg area, the mountains of southwest Virginia. Heavy rain on the way this weekend. We already had heavy rain this kind of earlier part of this week. Add this on top of it. River flooding and flash flooding will be a legitimate concern from Saturday into Sunday as the storm moves through your area. Final thing for the weekend storm. Wind. Again, we've got the snow and ice up north. You add wind on top of it. I am concerned about power outages. Move this ahead in time. Watch the storm really crank up right into here. This is when power outages could become a real problem during kind of the, I would say, early morning hours of Monday. Really after much of the snow and ice has already fallen, but still on the power lines, on the trees. Going to get a burst of wind after the storm as it's pulling away. That could kick up enough wind to bring down some trees and power lines. So watching that for our northeastern friends who are going to be dealing with it during the weekend and really even into early next Monday morning. All right, that's this weekend storm. Let's give you a little sneak peek in next week. Looks just as active. Here's the overall setup. This is Monday morning, our European model. A couple pieces of energy to watch. We've got this main upper level low kind of cut off here into the northern tier from Minnesota up through Wisconsin, kind of bordering Canada there. And then a new piece of energy diving through the PNW. And what's going to happen, or I guess what we don't know exactly how it's going to happen, but what we're watching for is how these two interact. And that will be kind of what leads to the next storm. So let's go ahead, take a look at some model guidance. We'll start with the latest GFS. Again, not going to go super in-depth on this one, a little bit further out, more question marks, but we'll give you a sneak peek at the potential possibilities, which that's the same thing. Potential and possibilities, those are basically the same word. Those are synonyms, but you get the point. So here we go. Tuesday morning on the GFS. In fact, we'll back it up even more. This is Monday night. Band of snow developing through the Central Plains, energy diving south, and we've got a winter storm through Missouri, Kansas, into the Ozarks of Arkansas, back through northern Oklahoma, diving southward. Here we go. Overnight Tuesday, we've got snow in Kentucky, West Virginia, and Nashville seeing some snow, all rain through the Gulf Coast. Not expecting a repeat of January out of this one, but areas further north, Nashville, Pikeville, Louisville, really into Paducah, into West Virginia, and then check it out. Wednesday morning, we've got some frozen precip in Virginia, northern North Carolina, into the Delmarva, into the DMV, areas that have really gotten a lot of winter weather recently. Look at the storm bringing some more winter weather for you, then tries to ride up the coast on the GFS. Just a little too far offshore and a little too late for a big nor'easter, but gets very close to doing it. That's just the GFS. Let's show you a couple other models. What about the European, old reliable as many call it? Well, a little bit further south on the European. Notice here comes a storm. Pretty similar for Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas. You get further south, though, the storm begins to strengthen a lot more along the Gulf Coast itself. You'll notice kind of a bit of a separation of the energy. Here's the northern stream energy. Here's the southern stream. They kind of get separated for a moment in the Euro. However, they come back together over the Carolinas. Notice we get this surge of moisture. We've got a winter storm, one of those classic I-85 North events, maybe even a little bit further south than that, close to an I-20 North event. We've got ice in Charlotte, Greenville, Spartanburg, up through Fayetteville. We've got snow in Boone, Asheville, Blacksburg. The storm continues to kind of work up the coast a little bit this Thursday morning. By this Thursday morning, I mean this being Thursday morning of next week. We've got snow in the mid-Atlantic, and then watch it kind of pull up the coast and strengthen, get some snow into the northeast, and then bombs out. We get bomb cyclogenesis up towards Nova Scotia, and just a crusher of a winter storm for those folks, but still just a little too far offshore for our friends in the northeast to get something big out of it. That's just two models, though. Let me throw you a bone. This is the crazy one from this afternoon. This is the Icon model. Here we go. Starts the same way with the storm, develops it, but notice what happens. Kind of a secondary surge of energy, and we get a big winter storm through the Mid-South. Birmingham, Atlanta, Greenville, Spartanburg, Charlotte gets in on the fun. Huge snowstorm up through into the Mid-Atlantic, through the Delmarva, and just rides up the coast in an absolute crusher of a nor'easter. This is as far out as the model goes. 979 millibar low, just bringing blizzard conditions through the Jersey Shore, Long Island, Connecticut, and up to Mass. Obviously, not a forecast, just taking a look at some models here. But what I will say is it has some legs. Again, if we kind of summarize everything we just looked at, all three models have a coastal storm. The only difference being the exact strength and location. Now, here's what's going to be make or break for this one and kind of how it unfolds. I'll start with the GFS. Remember, the GFS was a little more of a weaker system, slightly more suppressed. Here's why. Here's Tuesday afternoon. We've got the southern stream energy and we've got the northern stream energy. What happens, though, is they stay a little bit separated and don't really begin to merge until right here. Notice, again, this is Wednesday morning. Southern stream energy still pretty far south. Northern stream energy still pretty far north. We've got kind of a gap between there. Not really having a very good Valentine's Day between these two. Something's going on between them. They got a rift. They're not hooking up. Well, as we get a little bit further ahead into time, that changes. They kind of begin to merge and phase off the northeast coastline. It's just a wee bit too late on the model to get that big storm that the Icon shows. Now, what about the Icon itself? Obviously, that was the cool one. That's the one everyone wants if you're a big snow lover. Starts the same way. We've got the northern stream energy up here into Minnesota and the Dakotas, and we've got the southern stream energy working through the four corners Tuesday afternoon and evening. We get during the overnight into Wednesday, they really start to just merge a lot quicker. Notice right here, this is when they hook up right over the Carolinas, and that's why we've got the big coastal Carolina storm. We get a bit of a crusher through Asheville, Greenville, Spartanburg, up through Blacksburg, and at that point, the storm's got plenty of time to ramp up the coast as this upper level support and just massive lift above the storm is occurring, and that's really deepening the center low pressure. That's the difference between the models. Which one's going to happen? Well, if I told you which one, then I'd be lying to you because I and no other meteorologists know exactly right now. However, again, we've got legs for something, and if we take a look at the ensembles, this is the chance of, or not a chance, but this is kind of the mean of the ensembles snow within a 24-hour period. We'll start with the GEFS. That's the GFS ensemble members. showing that snow kind of line back down into Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri to start the week, then beefs up a little bit and then dies off a little bit as we're lacking that connection between the northern stream and southern stream. We've got a slight signal for Nashville, Little Rock, Huntsville, Greenville, Spartanburg, but then we get the kind of connection on more members and has higher snowfall probabilities in Raleigh, Virginia Beach, the Delmarva, up through the Jersey Shore into Long Island, and kind of pulls on out of here. Not a huge signal, but a noteworthy coastal storm signal. What about the European ensembles? This one's pretty good, folks, if you're a snow lover. So we'll move it ahead into time. Big snow signal back through Kansas, Oklahoma, into Missouri, through the Ozarks. Again, gets a little bit of kind of a break in between. So that's one thing to watch for our friends in Kentucky, Tennessee. Kind of a gap in the models on the snowfall, higher to your west, and then also higher to your east. Look at the European. Gets a nice snow signal. Classic I-85 North event from the upstate, Greenville, Spartanburg, Travelers Rest, Pickens, Walhalla. Those areas getting some snow out of the kind of blend here. Charlotte up towards the Triad getting a pretty good signal. And just a crusher of a signal up into central Virginia, up into the Delmarva, and then moves right up the I-95 corridor. Classic I-95 nor'easter look on the European ensemble. So exciting times, a lot to figure out. Got to get through this weekend, a dangerous one, unfortunately, for folks with severe weather and ice. Next week looks just as interesting. We'll see kind of what the impacts shape up to be. Alrighty, folks, if you haven't already, again, go ahead, like the video, subscribe, hit the bell for the latest notifications, and come back tomorrow for another update. With that said, y'all have a great one. Stay safe, stay warm, and I'll see you all tomorrow.